We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some trade talk around a variety of NHL teams, including the Vancouver Canucks. Might Steven Stamkos be a target of Vancouver to help get things turned around for their season? We'll discuss what Vancouver media is reporting. Plus, we have some trade talk around the St. Louis Blues, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Rangers, and the Utah Mammoth. Plus, we had a couple of big signings here as well, including Marty Necas in Colorado. Milestone goal last night for John Tavares of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Matt Barzal's actually a healthy scratch tonight, and a bunch of injury updates and more, plus an update on the Shea Pinto Extension talks with the Senators coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here in today's video. First, before we jump into a lot of the news, I want to acknowledge a big milestone that took place last night, and that was Toronto Maple Leaf assistant captain, former captain, and of course former captain of the Leafs and the Islanders, John Tavares, former first overall pick back many years ago now. Obviously closer to the end of his career than the beginning, but he continues to rack up milestones. Tavares scored goal number 500 last night. Unfortunately, it was the only game on the NHL schedule, and the Leafs did not put up a good fight and a good effort against the Blue Jackets and lost pretty big to the Jackets. So the goal was fairly meaningless. It was late in the game when they were trailing by like 5 goals, so I'm sure he would have probably had a much bigger reaction and celebration to such a big milestone. But he becomes the 49th player in NHL history to reach that target. So that's a massive number of goals over a very long, successful career. Obviously, we know, like I said, Tavares is former first overall pick, had a great run to Islanders, pretty good run to Leafs. I think the big thing for Tavares right now is whether or not he can have that playoff success and eventually get a Stanley Cup on his name before before his career is over, right? But a great regular season career overall. 500 goals is not easy accomplishment whatsoever. So congrats to John Tavares. Big signing today as well. Marty Necas, as we discussed in a prior video today. We'll recap quickly what went down. Necas signs an 8-year deal with the Avalanche with a cap hit of $11.5 million per season, $92 million total. Obviously not too far off what Rantanen ended up getting paid with the Dallas Stars. And I know a lot of the discourse today is around this contract saying, well, not saying Necas isn't worth that, $11 million or more, but they fussed about paying Rantanen 12. And to be honest, I don't think that's completely fair. I know I kind of thought it at first too, but then after kind of looking back and kind of remember, okay, here's what the whole Rantanen, how everything played out. Rantanen ended up signing for $12 million with Dallas, but he was not asking for $12 million from the Avalanche. He was looking for much more than that. The belief was it was like somewhere around 13 or more, 13 to 14 range. Didn't get it. There was a major gap in the negotiations, which is why they opted for the trade. And really, Carolina wasn't going to pay him that kind of money either. So, ultimately, I think Carolina had hopes to get him signed closer to the 12 mark too. Obviously, he chose not to want to sign long-term there. But Dallas ended up giving him 12, and of course, they're in a no-state tax, so they do have a little bit of an advantage that way. So he'll take home the equivalent of a little bit more than that in other NHL markets. But, a large part of what went down with the Avalanche and Rantanen was that he was looking for substantially more. Just because he signed for 12 doesn't mean that's where things are at now. If they could have got him close to 12, I think they would have had an agreement. Now, I'm not sure exactly where things were at. I know they wanted to keep him under McKinnon, but it's kind of late now, but at the end of the day, they couldn't take the chance that Nate just walks, or that they had to move him to get another deal where they can find another productive player that's going to give them similar production or anywhere close to it. Would have been very challenging. So Nate just, I think this contract's going to be fine. Great player, fits well with McKinnon. Different dynamic, of course, than Rantanen. And, of course, ultimately they want a cup with Rantanen. If they don't win a cup with Necas, maybe long term we'll have a different opinion down the road. But for right now, I think it's something that they had to do, and I think the contract should work out. We also had a prospect trade earlier today. Nothing crazy, but the Flyers and Stars hooked up on a deal with the Flyers trading prospect forward Samu Tuonala to the Dallas Stars for defensive prospect Christian Kyrou. Both were second-round picks. Kyrou in 2022, Tuomala in 2021. Both players in the final year of their ELCs and getting a fresh start and new scenery. Matt Barzal, healthy scratch for the Islanders tonight. He was late to make it to the team bus to go to their game, and because of being late, he's getting the health bomb from Patrick Waugh tonight. Seems to be quite a mixed opinions out there about this situation as well. And to be fair, from what I've seen and heard, I'm not completely sure this is the first time that Barzal's done this. I think this might be a case where maybe it's happened before and they've let it go. But clearly, these guys are pro athletes. I don't have any issues with coaches benching guys or making them sit out a game because they were late or they missed a meeting or something like that. Like, they're making millions of dollars being professional athletes. The least they can do is be on time. And I honestly think everybody should acknowledge that and should not care. I mean, it hurts the team. At the end of the day, if you're a fan of a team and one of your team's best players is sat out because they missed a meeting or they were late, you can be grumpy about that. You can feel not good about it. That's totally fine and justified, but I don't think the anger should be directed towards the team or the coach or the GM. It should be at the player for screwing up. At the end of the day, like I said, Barzal is not only a pro hockey player, but he's a pro hockey player that's been in the league close to a decade. He's in his late 20s now, is expected to be a leader on that team, and this is not a good example. So it's like, you might say, oh, it's not a big deal, and maybe it's not in the grand scheme of things, but like I said, they're making millions of dollars, they're pro athletes. I have no problem with teams setting that as the standard in the policy. So I'm sure he'll come back and be, show the efforts here, and the next time he gets back in the lineup. Now, unfortunately, Cal Ritchie was being called up and was supposed to make his NHL debut in Barzal's place, and because of all the bad weather in the Northeast, his flight was delayed and he could not make it to the game in time. So, unfortunately, Cal Ritchie was not in the lineup for the Islanders tonight, but he will make it there eventually, and there is a possibility he plays in the next game. But yeah, imagine being called up for your first NHL game because of that, especially of all the situations too. Would have probably had a chance to play a little bit maybe higher in the lineup and ended up getting delayed because of weather. That's really unfortunate for Ritchie. But hopefully he gets to play here while he's up with the team before he ends up getting sent back. A bunch of roster moves, injury updates. The Red Wings today recalled Austin Watson. The Habs sent back Joshua Wall and Mark Dalgeisel back to the minors. They also sent David Reinbacher back to the minors as well. Now, of course, he was mainly up with the Habs because of injury. So he wasn't officially on the Laval roster in the AHL because he was hurt before the season got started, but he's able to go now, so he's officially sent to AHL Laval. And the other thing with Montreal, they have William Trudeau on waivers. Now, again, he was also hurt before the season started, so he would have been placed on waivers before and sent down to the Laval team, and they weren't able to do that because he was injured, so they're doing it now. He most likely clears, ends up in Laval as of tomorrow afternoon, but we will find out for sure when the time comes at 2 o'clock Eastern time. The Flyers today have goaltender Sammy Urson on IR, so he's hurt and will miss some time. They've recalled Kolosov. The Sabres have sent Noah Ostlund back to the American Hockey League. The Bruins had a big update on defenseman Jordan Harris. Harris required ankle surgery and is going to be missing approximately 2 months of action. So that's a real bad situation for him. Obviously, being a younger player, still trying to, really establish himself with his new team here. And then to miss 2 months with ankle surgery is certainly not what he was hoping for. So that's unfortunate news, but hopefully he makes a speedy recovery, and he should still have time to get back maybe right around Christmas or shortly thereafter, depending on how his recovery fully goes. Now, of course, one of the hot topics around the Ottawa Senators is the pending contract extension that they're hoping to get done soon here with one of the league's top goal scorers and hot to start the season. Shane Pinto has already got 8 goals on the year. The pending restricted free agent centerman has really established himself in the last year or so as being a really, really good two-way centerman. And obviously this year he's showing that it's not just two-way play, that he can be quite productive offensively as well. He's not like he's been a slouch in the past, but I think he's trying to really show that he can up that game. For the most part, the last couple of years when he's been able to play, he has missed some time, of course. I think a lot of people had him pegged for being like a 20-goal, maybe 45, 50-point centerman, play third line, two-way play, penalty killer. And he can do all that. There's no doubt about it, but I honestly think he can be more. And I think long-term, he's not their 3C, he's their 2C. And I think they've started to see that. So they're trying to Obviously, they've experimented with both Dylan Cousins and Tim Stützle playing a little bit on the wing this year, trying to get more ice time in offensive situations for Pinto's, getting a little bit more power play time than they did last year as well. So, obviously, it's going quite well for him so far. According to Bruce Garriock on the broadcast tonight during the intermission on their question period segment on TSN, on the Sens regional broadcast, he said that we know that the Sens and Pinto negotiated in the offseason. The Ottawa offer was believed to be around $5 to $5.5 million range on a longer-term deal. That did not get it done. Shouldn't surprise anybody that it didn't. It's nowhere near enough. There was reports from Elliot Friedman back, I want to say, was it a week or so ago, that the Senators did table a new 8-year offer. Garriock says that he believes the AAV on that new offer was upped to around $6.5 million. But he also says that he's not sure, like some of the other reporters, that Pinto will do an 8-year deal. As much as the Senators would love that, looking at how the other contracts are structured amongst the other top players on the team, he might prefer a shorter-term deal, for one, to maximize his earnings, and two, to kind of line up with some of the other guys. Like Brady Tkachuk's got 3 years left. Stützle, Sanderson, they're up around like 7 years. Batherson's got like another 3 too. So like they would have a bunch expiring at the same time, but it also would allow him to kind of say, okay, the next few years are all my buddies going to kind of stick around here too? Is this core going to continue to grow together? What's my role going to be in a couple of years? So he may prefer something shorter, maybe as close to 3 years. I think the Senators would probably prefer somewhere in the 4 to 6 range at least. If he's not going to do 8, they're probably going to push for at least 4 or 5. We'll see where they end up. But the $6.5 million is not going to get it done either. Garriock feels that Pinto's camp's likely going to push to be paid somewhere in between Tim Stützle and Dylan Cousins. And to be honest, I think that's totally fair. Cousins is making 7.1. Timmy's making just over 8. So I think, to be fair, a little bit more than Cousins would be probably, somewhere 7.25 to 7.5 range. Hopefully would get it done, especially if you're not going to lock up for 8 years. If you're only going to lock up for 3 to 4 or 5 years, $7+ million to me for Shane Pinto would be a great deal. I don't think it would have to go much higher than, maybe in that close to 7.5 range. So they definitely have a little ways to go to get this done. He's RFA at the end of the year, so it's not a huge rush. But I think from the Sens' perspective, he's had a hot start. I think they want to get this done as soon as they can because, as some of its teammates have been teasing, every time he gets another goal and adds more points to the total, they keep making the cha-ching sound that his contract's going to be that much more. So obviously they'd like to get this done as soon as possible, but they're going to have to up the ante and probably shorten the term a little bit to get him to sign. But there's not much, I don't think anybody thinks that he won't sign. It's just a matter of coming to terms on the right structure. But they've made good progress, but they have a ways to go. Now, a bunch of other trade talk around the NHL. Let's look at first a tidbit from the St. Louis Blues. This one came, I believe it was Cam Robinson that posted this on social media, saying that Oscar Sundqvist of the Blues appears to be a player that might be available in St. Louis. And it might not be a huge asking price. They may not, extend him. He may not be a part of their longer-term plans there. And if you're willing to pay like a mid-round pick, maybe like a third-rounder, for example, for a player that can be, a useful depth player, then he could be had for that type of asking price out of St. Louis. So the Blues have not had a fantastic start to the year. I think they're asking themselves some questions. There's some people that think that they may even look to make a bigger move to shake things up. And, if they don't get things turned around, and if we're looking at, end of November, for example, and things aren't any better, that, maybe some of the talk around guys like Kyrou or some of the other, higher paid players on the team might come back into surface, or even Braden Shen to some degree. Obviously they're a team that's, I think, expecting more. I honestly thought they'd be a team that would come back stronger this year after being another full year under Jim Montgomery, like after what he did after he landed there partway through last year. I thought they'd be better than this too. So we'll see where things go, but definitely a team that's going to be interesting to watch here. Dave Pagnotta's got a bunch of reports, the things he's been saying here. One, talking about Carolina. Of course, we know the Canes and Utah are teams to watch. We even keep hearing about Ottawa, too. Those are the three teams looking to maybe make a big move. But as far as the Canes go, they've expressed interest, according to Pagnotta, not only in the Nick Schmaltz camp with Utah, who we've heard about here just in the last day or two, is possibly being moved by the Mammoth, but Erik Karlsson's another player that the Canes have shown interest in. Now, that was more in the offseason, but they've got a blue line that's pretty battered right now. A lot of guys missing time. You can generate a lot of offense from the back end. Karlsson's had a good start with the Penguins. Now, Kyle Dubas, I think, would move Karlsson in a heartbeat, but I don't know that. Does he want to do it right now? I mean, I think he'd love to move him this year, but I just don't know how eager they are to do that when they had a good start. At the same time, I think the long-term plan for this team is to continue building more younger players and skill into this team. And if they can move, if they could get a guy like Bradley Nadeau, for example, who just scored his first NHL goal, I don't know if the Canes would move him. But I mean, if you could get a guy like him out of Carolina, I'd move Karlsson for him in a heartbeat. So again, no guarantee they would do that. I'm just saying if they would, you'd have to jump on it. But obviously there's salary structure and other things that would have to be factored in. To that as well. With Utah and Nick Schmaltz, some people seem a little confused as to why they would move him. And it's not a foregone conclusion, absolutely, that they will. It's just that negotiations have gone very poorly on an extension. But if you look at what they just signed Logan Cooley. Obviously, they've got Jack McBain. They've got some other centers in the organization. They've got guys coming. They got Caleb Desnoyers, who they took very highly in last summer's draft, playing with the Moncton Wildcats. He's likely going to make the NHL next year. They still got Tisha Ginla coming. They've got some more young forwards that they need to find ways to fit into this team. And they've got plenty that are there now. So does it make sense to lock up Schmaltz on a long-term deal? Probably not, unless he's going to give you a really good discount. So, I mean, it makes sense to me why they would consider this. I think it's more about long-term play than it is anything else. I don't think they feel rushed to do it, but certainly Schmaltz is another name to watch that could be a player for the Canes. A lot of people think that if they're going to add, that it would make more sense for them to add a centerman than a winger, so we'll see on that front. But definitely some names to watch. Pagnotta's also talking about the Rangers. We know that they're a team that's not had a fantastic start to the year, and there's a variety of rumors and things that they're rumored to be looking at. We've heard obviously lots about the future of Artemi Panarin, whether or not he resigns. It doesn't sound as likely right now. Could they even make a bigger, bolder move by trading a guy like Alexis Lafreniere? His name has been out there as well. But another name, according to Pagnotta, it's not so much that the Rangers are out there trying to move him or shopping him or anything of that nature. This is not the case, but defenseman Braden Schneider's name is coming up a lot. Now, we know the Rangers, like I said, they're struggling. They're having lots of conversations, weighing different options. They've reportedly been involved with a lot of different conversations around the league, considering different moves. And Schneider's a name that a lot of other teams are asking about. Again, doesn't mean they want to move him, but he is a pending RFA. He's got arbitration rights, due a raise. So, they might be looking at it saying, do they want to get into the next contract? As much as they like the player, what's his projected contract going to be? Do they want to do that? They have to make those decisions. And as much as it might be a player they don't want to necessarily move, he's a player that has value that other teams really like. And if they're going to pry a player out of them, another team, he might have to be a guy that's on the table. I mean, you've heard about Brennan Othman as well. Othman's been a player that suggested could very well be in for a fresh start. We've heard about Panarin, we've heard about Lafreniere, but Schneider's more of a guy that's got more value that teams are liking right now. So we'll see if they make any deals involving him. And a couple of reports out of Vancouver media suggesting that Steven Stamkos might be a Canuck target. Now, I talked to you a few days ago about Stamkos maybe landing in Toronto. Now, I know he hasn't been great in Nashville, and a lot of people are, I think, as a fan base for various teams, skeptical that Stamkos could be the answer anywhere. Is he washed at this point? And maybe he's taken a step back. I don't know, but maybe he could be rejuvenated playing with some good players. I think he's surrounded in the right set of circumstances and the right line mates, and I think he could be rejuvenated. It's not like he forgot how to play hockey, right? I mean, he's got a ton of experience, had a great career. Is he the same player he was in his prime? No, probably not. But he's definitely able to help a team, I think. Now, Vancouver, to me, though, doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, he's got 2 years left at $8 million, 2 years counting this season. I mean, Vancouver's got a ton of injuries at this point. Brock Besser got hurt tonight in the first minute. They've got it's a big number of regular players out of the Vancouver lineup right now. It is crazy the amount of injuries that team has racked up already. So, I mean, they have some players that I think Nashville would like, but Stamkos in Vancouver, to me, he's better off to go to a team that's closer to being win now mode, and it's like an extra piece to kind of help maybe get over the top. He doesn't have to play as big of a role, but I would think he'd be expected to do a lot with that Canuck team, who's really not primed for a lot right now. I think the Canucks are a team that's going to struggle to get into the playoffs. I don't know that they're not close to winning right now. So why would they want to make a move for a guy like Stamkos? I was surprised to hear those reports today. It does not make any sense to me. Toronto does make some sense. Like I said, they're looking for a top winger or somebody who can help replace what they lost in Mitch Marner. I do think that the loss of Marner is playing a big role in the team's slow start this year. They need to get things figured out. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But honestly, the whole Vancouver and Stamkos thing just doesn't make sense to me. But we'll see if there's more to it, or if there's any level of, serious talks that we hear about. But until Barry Trotz and Steven Stamkos decide that he's, ready to move on, he'd have to give him some teams to talk to. I don't know. I don't see it. Let me know your thoughts. Is the Stamkos to Canucks thing a bad idea all around? I think it is. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll talk further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.